It's Wednesday morning, and it's time for relaxing painting with Dyson Dungeons. So here I am, um, about to do some sanding and some painting, and some more sanding and then some painting with Dyson Dungeons. So I thank everybody who is or will be joining in today. I am going to be wrapping up a little bit early, probably closer to noon than 1, because there's some stuff I need to do in not streaming life. And yeah, there it is. Needs to be done. So it will. But anyway, I'm going to try to get as much done as I can, which is not usually very much, but, slow and steady progress. What I will be attempting to do today, and hopefully I'll be successful, is on the cart. There's this bracket that goes in the center that supposedly holds the X together, and then some little brackets here and on the other side that where the wheels attach. So those are like metal reinforcements. And then the top of this is not wood. This is a cart that holds the Savoia. It's not in the water. And so this is probably some sort of thing like leather. And it is painted according to the painting instructions, this stuff called deck tan, which I have. So I'm going to be painting those. The other thing I'm going to be doing is making some swatches of the deck tan. This is the deck tan color. Hopefully the paint is still good, unlike that one bottle of Flat Earth that I had. So I'm going to make some swatches of it to test different washes on it so that it looks a little bit livelier, not terribly much, but some. The same thing I did, this is the color, the desert yellow color for the hull and wooden pieces on the inside of the plane, because the top of the plane lifts off and you can see the detail on the inside of this. It's pretty cool. But this is kind of, it's just flat. It's not very interesting. So I tried our 3 different brown washes on it, smoky, umber, and brown, because I want to be able to highlight it a little bit to make it look like wood that maybe had a little weathering on it, or just something to make it more interesting than not. So that's the painting part of relaxing painting today, is the brackets and the metal part. And then depending on how that goes, I might just go ahead and attach the wheels. Why not? Right? So these wheels, they came out okay. I don't know if you can see it, but the hub is actually slightly darker shade than the rest. That was just a little detail I put in. The sanding part, there are 2 sanding parts. These are, I think, like radiators. These were cemented together on Monday, the 2 halves. And as you can see, when you get 2 halves of something, there's always this line of a discontinuity. So I'll be sanding down these edges so that that line doesn't show. And then maybe, I don't see any way to test fit these right now, but there. It's on this piece of tape because there's a left one and a right one. And I want to keep them so that I can tell which is which. Painting them, yeah. Well, at least until they're sanded down and primed. And then I'll have to come up with some other way of identifying which is which when I paint them. When I paint them, what is likely to happen, try this anyway. I try to grab the little tab with an alligator clip, see if that's possible. Yeah, maybe. It has to be painted like all around, and there isn't any other way to hold it other than on the little tab that probably shouldn't have a lot of paint on it anyway. That might work. There might be a little bit of a touch up down at the base. We'll see. But for now, there's that. And depending on how those end up looking, I might put a little bit of wash on them too, just to bring out the detail. There's some, I don't know, like a little bracket or something that is molded in. So those are the things I'm going to make an effort to do today, and hopefully it will work out. Oh yeah, one other sanding. This is an important sanding. This the bottom of this, has all sorts of things attached to it to make it look like the interior detail of the plane. There's a fuel tank and a radio compartment and the whole cockpit and everything. But unfortunately, it also has these circles molded into it. So I filled these circles with epoxy, which is now dry or cured, and I'm going to sand that down. And what I want to have happen, what I'm hoping will happen, is that the filling in will have been successful. I can sand it down so the whole thing is even, and they will be virtually impossible to see once I paint. I'm using epoxy on the suggestion of our DM because these are very shallow, and I don't have any other filler. Hi, Ole. Thanks for dropping in. I appreciate it. And thanks for the shout out on your video. You're really kind when you do that. That's really nice. It's really nice when you promote our stream as well. So I'm going to see if this epoxy works. I'll be sanding that down to hopefully right at the surface of the rest of this. And then if it works, I'll fill in the other 5 with some epoxy and then sand that down on Friday, depending on how things go today. But like I said, I'm going to probably be wrapping up around noon. At some point, we got this wonderful Porco Rosso minifig that needs to be painted, and that will be fun to do. And I'll be starting on that when I get to it. What can I say? What should I do first? I'm kind of tempted to do the sanding on these first. Thanks so much. Yeah. Well, it's an interesting mid-level model building stream, I guess. I think I'm gonna sand these first because it, have a little coffee and stuff before I start painting. Take these off because, as I keep telling people, I can't see close up. I think I can use 600 grit on this. I'm going to try that. Well, I'm really excited for you because you had that explosion of subscribers. I mean, just massive. So whatever you were doing really seemed to have caught on very well, very nicely. So the sanding stuff is always, it's kind of boring. It's boring to do and it's kind of boring to watch, but it really makes a difference in the appearance of the model later to not have the seams show. So these, let's see, you can see here the difference in, yep. Drive carefully. I don't know if you can see the difference in reflectivity. So what's happening here is this side is higher than that side. They're offset a little bit. And so as I'm sanding it, I'm sanding down one side, but not the other. So this means I need to just keep sanding it until the shiny bit disappears. Your continuing support in the face of unrelenting demands on your time is so much appreciated. I hope your children appreciate the fact that you're giving up almost all of your life, just, taking them places and supporting their activities. Wow, that's really cool. I'm going to have to watch those. I have not been watching stuff. I've been dog sitting uh, recently, so haven't been catching much. Wow, 3,000. That's just amazing. I guess, what it's if something catches on and it does get exponential, doesn't it? One can only hope that they provide you with the mobility assistance that you're going to need when you're older. We aren't quite to that stage yet, but it can happen at any time. The Our partners in Dyson Dungeons, Alexis and Nicole, have promised that they will take care of us when we're old. Well, hopefully we'll be able to remember that. You know what I mean? Remember that they promised, and hopefully they do too. Okay. So if you remember the before, now that I've sanded it down, the seam seems to have disappeared. So this is not, it's not perfect yet, but it's pretty close. And I know this is silly detail, and then you paint over it, and sometimes you wonder why it bothered. What difference does it make in terms of how it looks? But since I've now declared that this is how can you make models that look pretty good, not perfect? Yes, Nicole. Nicole is my daughter, and Alexis is my daughter-in-law. Nicole is the artist. She was outstanding student in her class. Actually, the local art school is like one of the top in the country, like that top 25 or something like that. So, it was pretty good training. And she really is talented. I don't know. I mean, if you're watching the stream, you can see obviously that it did not come from me. And my wife's talent is, I'll be honest, is even less than mine in terms of art. When I was growing up, meaning like elementary school, I thought I had artistic skill. I don't know why I thought that. But I liked to draw. So I drew a couple of things, and I thought, oh, this looks pretty good. I guess I'm talented. And then I found out that I really wasn't. When I compared what I did to what it should have been. My parents did not encourage that, which is probably a good thing because there wasn't any talent there to encourage anyway. But, having a son who wanted to be artistic wasn't what they had in mind, at least my dad. But it turned out just as well because I didn't, there wasn't any talent to encourage. They did get me a kit once. It was called Learn to Draw. I still remember the name of it. John Nagy. I don't know who John Nagy was, but John Nagy promised that he could teach you how to draw. So I got this kit once, the John Nagy Learn to Draw kit. It was pencils and charcoal, which were really messy. Drawing with charcoals. I mean, they can turn out okay because you can do cool stuff like blending them and whatever, But so I did a dog. I thought, well, okay, I'll learn how to draw this dog. And it was a pretty mediocre dog. And it was, I think this is kind of actually true, that by getting the Learn to Draw kit, I learned that I couldn't draw. And so the Learn to Draw kit actually just sort of ended any, I can't call it an aspiration, delusion, I don't know, any thoughts I could be an artistic person. Once I got something that would actually teach me how, and it turned out so mediocre, I just didn't anymore. So that's why when I'm doing models like this or minifigs, I'm really good at staying inside the lines. That was kind of my skill. The level of my skill was with crayon staying inside the lines, which meant no creativity, like zero creativity, but very neat color perimeters. So my minifigs end up looking like that. Someone said they were sort of cartoonish, I guess, in that sense. Another person said, "Oh, they look very clean," because I've never learned the artistic skills of like shading, which Nicole is really good at. I'm kind of experimenting with washes now, but still a spot. It's just the tiny little bit of reflectivity on a spot that isn't sanded means that I haven't successfully evened out the seam. So yeah, this tiny little part with these tiny little seams that are mostly invisible is going to take up, I don't know what, probably 45 minutes or something of this stream. But when the top of the plane comes off and you see the inside, these parts are very visible, and the edges are these edges. Seams show. It looks like just like a plastic model and not something better. And I'm really trying to do a fairly high quality job on this model. There's one side of one of them. Model trains. Oh, that's really fun. Oh, oh my. Oh. Three-masted sailboats. Oh, well, you come from a talented family. My family had no talents that I know of. It's now that you mention it, it's kind of weird, but that's really cool. That must have been a difficult thing to do. If you're into railroad modeling and you just get this huge collection, you decide to give it up. But okay, so he did it kind of backward, I would say. When you're younger, you should be out there on three-masted sailboats. That's a lot of work, hoisting sails and setting the jibs and all of that sort of thing. I would have thought it would be just the opposite. You do that when you're younger, and then you spend the next 20 years doing model railroading, because, so do they take long voyages on this? Or is it the kind of thing where you head up the coast of Norway or something? No, uh, no, I definitely wasn't adopted. I know that, but you're giving me a compliment. Thank you, because my parents had no skills, no, not skills, but talents, because my parents had no talents. You're paying me a compliment. Thank you. Yeah, I think I pretty much, well, what I did was I translated, trying to translate being very good at staying within the lines into some sort of, you know, making things look good. I'm more of a, I guess, less artistic than like a tradesperson. Just being almost like a watchmaker or something, right? Just really attentive. I'm pretty good at not being bored by attending to detail, like sanding these down. Maybe that, I'm just I'm really not a very interesting person, not very creative or inventive or anything. My brother was. Okay, but that's a long time to be out on a boat like that. Yes, it's good to have younger people actually do hoisting the sails. Oh, and they probably climb up into them too, don't they? To maybe unfurl them. On some of these ships, you had to climb up what were they called, the rat lines. I think that's the right term. So you have to climb up the rat lines so that you can unfurl the sails, and then the ropes pull them taut to move them around. The amazing use of ropes on these ships, just I understand, just everything is held together and maneuvered with ropes. Like the masts are held in place with ropes that hopefully are well attached. You think that, they just hold, like they go through the ship and hold themselves up, but they don't. It's like a radio tower, a cell tower that's held largely in place with cables. So yeah, he used to do all the heavy work, but he's been doing that ever since 12. Cool. Sailing is another talent I found out I didn't have. Since you're talking about that, when I went when I went to graduate school in Madison, Wisconsin, which is an amazingly lovely place, but I'm not there anymore. So that is kind of a sad thing having to leave there, but jobs and family and stuff. The campus is on three lakes, and the student union sponsors a sailing club and gives sailing lessons. My wife and I tried to learn how to sail on these little sunfish. We actually passed the class. I think it was the instructors. Well, we didn't sink the boat. So we were able to take it out, not sink the boat, and got back to the dock so we could come out of the boat. So I think that was the only requirement to pass the class, which meant that we were then allowed to rent these little sunfish and sail on our own, but never had the confidence really to do that. Well, I have the distinction, though, of being older than your father, so I could be your father in terms of age. I'm not quite as active, though. I have, that's really cool to be sailing like that. And being part of an organization for that long. I mean, he's probably like an institution within the club. Certainly has status enough to give orders. Why is this not sanding down as quickly as I would like? I want to use a different grit. How many people usually go on this? Like a three-masted ship. It must have quite a significant crew. And is it sort of like Navy-ish, where you get a different rank and a different job, depending on, seniority and skill? $50. So are they responsible for maintaining that? If it's 150 years old, it's largely wood. That means a lot of constant attention. So the club itself has like a two-masted boat, two-masted schooner, maybe. So the three-masted ship, I know that there's different sails. I don't know what the words are. Wow, that's a full-time job, just keeping that thing barnacle free, not leaking, replacing wooden parts. That's really, yeah, that keeps your club together. But it also is a great sense of shared responsibility. So does it have the triangular sails or the square sails? Is it like a schooner with the triangular sails? Or is it more like whatever, frigate or something that has the square sails? Fine. I'll keep sanding at this a little bit longer. I haven't ruined the detail yet, but it's getting close. So this is taking longer than I thought it would to get the seams not showing very much. And they're not perfectly gone yet, but I guess that's about as good as I can get it. So the large ship, they must have a relationship with somebody who owns the big one, and it's probably a pretty exciting time to be able to take out a boat that big. So are they very like weather dependent? Are they cautious and not go out when it's going to sink them? Or are they brave or foolhardy, depending on your perspective? And they go out and, I suppose with a sailing ship. Oh, okay. It's like a training ship. I know some navies, I think maybe even the U.S. Navy, but I know there's at least one Nordic country that has that keeps a big sailing ship as like a training thing for their cadets. They're people in training, cadets and ensigns. Probably would have gone faster if I'd used the 400 grit instead of the 600, but I didn't. This one seems to be going a little bit more quickly. The two halves, I guess, lined up better when they were cemented together. Sailing, it's amazingly skillful to, I think, to be able to sail and to keep a crew together, doing the things that are necessary to make the ship work. Oh, wow. Okay. So it's not like part of the military. It is a school. That's pretty amazing. And so they live their lives as sailors had. So does it work just like 14 to 17? So they would be high school. So the ship is the high school. That's an amazing opportunity. I would imagine there's, a fair amount of competition for the spots on that because it sounds like a really cool thing to do. But again, I'm going to guess that there's also a fair amount of self-selection in that not everybody wants to live on a ship during the entire school year and do all the physical labor. Huge amount of really tough physical labor to keep the thing afloat and sailing. That's a pretty cool opportunity. So is it like a private school or an extension of the public schools? Okay. That's a pretty amazing experience, really. Huh. I don't know if we have anything like that here. I mean, certainly not. I mean, we have ships on the Great Lakes, but I don't think there's any school ships. These bits, according to the instructions, are going to be painted sort of a greenish color. I don't know exactly what they are in terms of the components of the plane. I thought they were radiators, and they might be. But they're painted kind of a light, sort of almost olive green. Oh, no kidding. Wow, that's different than I would have thought. I would have thought that it had been kind of like a privileged sort of thing that people could go to, but to use it as we used to call them, training schools. Yeah, you'd learn a lot that way. Because when you're on a ship like that and you're trying to sail it, you need to, maybe that's where the phrase came from, pull your own weight, because you're pulling ropes, spending a lot of time pulling ropes. And if you don't do your bit, then the whole ship could actually be in jeopardy. So just getting a lot of physical exercise, learning teamwork, that's a really cool thing. It is an opportunity. I would have thought, yeah. I mean, it would be an opportunity for people with privilege to be able to do something like that. I imagine it's really successful too then. to yeah, okay, this is a little more challenging bit here. This is where the sprue was attached, so there's just an extra bit of plastic. And this paper seems to be taking a lot of plastic off, but it's taking a long time to get the plastic that I want off. But I'm almost on the last, facet, edge. It's just this one up here on the corner. Why, it's like scratch marks on it. So that's the ship that comes by the club and gives your dad an opportunity to sail on a gigantic sailing ship. That's really great. Yeah, so people do like a 1 year tour, a 1 year stint on the ship. Yeah, that is an amazing opportunity. If that's something you want to do, to live on a ship, which is not an easy thing, I imagine. Being on the water, doing a lot of physical labor. But on the other hand, it's an amazing opportunity. I'm going to have to read something about that. That's just fascinating to have that kind of opportunity. Why am I spending so much time on this one little bit? It's underneath. You won't even see it. But I know it's there, and it's annoying me. Down so I can rub harder on it. I have learned that eventually these little flaws do disappear with sanding. They do go. That looks like it's just a little gap that isn't going to disappear completely. It's pretty invisible where it is. So have you convinced your daughter yet to have maybe like a 15-second appearance on one of your streams? I know you said she's very shy, but she must be pretty skilled and talented. It must maybe you can talk her into just this little bit of stardom. Okay, 20 weeks. So it's not the entire school year, but that's a long time. So they must run maybe 2 shifts, or it might, be seasonally or weather dependent. It would kind of make sense that maybe they're not there in the worst part of the winter. D&D is on Discord. People ask me about these things all the time, but yes, Dyson Dungeons is on Discord, and I have access to Discord. I am actually signed on my computer as we speak. Oh my, okay. That's serious sailing when you're out in the Atlantic sailing intercontinentally. What an amazing opportunity to do that. Okay, I think these are about as good as they can reasonably get, which means that they're ready to be washed. They're going to have to be thoroughly washed because there's a lot of plastic dust on them from the sanding. and then primed. So I can do that. I'm going to create a new holder of them. It was a semi-clever invention of having the sticky side up and then putting little wings of tape. I am Ulseth Ralph. That's my character's name. I'm Greg, and I play Ulseth Ralph, a furbog fighter. And I know that's a little bit unusual, but I named my character after a beloved uncle. I used to, that's another thing older people do, I used to have some isopropyl alcohol here. I guess I've used this before. D&D server, Discord. I think that's who I am there. You know, I'm not sure. I'll have to look and find out. So I've used this to rinse some brushes, but it's pretty clear. You know, these parts look okay now. They really didn't look okay. Nines is when you and chat here comes in as who and Zoria. Huh. Okay, I'll have to find out why I'm not there. My daughter plays Zoria. Trixie is the name that our DM uses. And nines. Okay, so 3 out of the 4 of us are there. Great. And I'm not. So I guess that's appropriate, right? What can I say? I'll have to find out what's going on with that. I really don't know. I don't know why I'm not on there or what I need to do. Oh, that is me. Okay, you found me. That's me, Greg DZ. Very cleverly named myself my name. Those are the first 2 letters of my last name. You know, it's weird. It's like trying to remember your own cell phone number, sort of. It's a thing you never call, right? You never call your own cell phone number, so that's how to do. Oh, thank you. We'll get on that either later today or tomorrow. We can link up that way. Okay, well, I spent a lot of time. What can I say? You know, it's almost 50 minutes just to sand down the edges of these 2 pieces so that the seams don't show. And in the scheme of things, I'm not sure how much difference that will make in the appearance of the model, but I'm going to tell myself that it was worthwhile. And that these 2 parts now are ready to be primed and then painted green. Okay, I'll definitely check in on that. Yeah, but that's me. Everybody else is using their show names or a clever name. Okay, I guess it's time to do some painting. I'm going to do some, for me, not very relaxing painting. It's highly detailed, and I'm going to be using some metallic colors on the cart here. Oh, really? Thank you. Is she going to be okay with that? You're not allowed to see it. I'll look forward to that. As long as she's okay with it. Wouldn't want to violate any trust or anything like that. Well, I will definitely not tell her. Thank you. I'm going to watch that when it comes in. That's really cool. I'm looking forward to it. She's been working on this for such a long time that I'm looking forward to seeing her talent. So the reason this is going to be not relaxing for me is that I've already base coated and washed this. And if I get the metallic paint on it where I shouldn't be, it's going to be really hard to touch it up. So I'm going to be very careful. I might end up going silent. Oh no, they don't even let you watch. How are you? Okay, how are you going to record it if you're locked up? I hope I hope the room has something comfortable. Is there at least a comfy place for you to sit? Okay. Oh, that event is going to be a public event. Now I understand. Okay. So when you're in the room and you're locked up in the room, um, is there like at least a seat cushion or something? It's not just benches and lockers, is it? I'm going to put this on so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to use a teeny little brush and hope that I don't mess things up. It's called, okay. So you have, oh, right. So you're working. While they're out there on the ice, you are working, keeping their skates sharpened. Well, that's a really important, okay, there. That's a really important thing to do. This is going to take a long time because I am working really hard at not messing it up. The raised surface, and if I keep my brush at the right angle, there should be a good chance I won't mess it up. Thanks for dropping in. And thank you for sending the friend request, and thank you in advance for the video of your daughter. Drive carefully, and hopefully see you again on Friday. Oh my. See, I'm looking at this and I missed an entire spot. I'm going to have to, that's going to be some work fixing that. Edge here, and I was afraid of that. And the edges, and I thought I checked those real carefully. But there and here are entire spots that were never painted. I'm going to try to see if I can fix that with the wash. Wow. Okay. Well, that's, I'm going to be signing off about noon today because we have a place we need to go. It's kind of an unexpected thing. Seeing what was essentially a, a large chunk of the. Okay. And there too, a wash didn't seem to be. Okay, that was bad. I almost had an oops. The brush caught on the upright. Well, I have some serious flaws in this that need to be corrected. That I think I can do by just using the wash. They're very surprising and annoying to see. Like right along here, that doesn't look like it had been washed, and then there's some spots like along. Where should it go now? Here, that never seemed to have been painted at all. I don't know how to explain that. I guess I should have been wearing these. I was doing. This metallic paint dry because I know what I'll do. What I will do is I will stick my finger in it and then get a silvery fingerprint on the model somewhere. I'm going to let this dry, and my effort to make this at least an A minus so far looks like a failure because of the way the wash is not on it the way it should be. I'm thinking if I pretty much just dry brush it on, that I should be able to fix it. But I'm going to have to wear these so that I can see so I can see where it goes. Oh, the rings. Speaking of putting my fingers in the paint, I am holding it exactly where some of this paint needs to go. Let's see how that goes. On either side of this are little rings that, if this were a cart, which it's supposed to be, those rings would be where you'd attach a hook and a rope or a cable. So you could pull the cart with the plane on it. I almost forgot about them until I started talking about, I'm going to stick my fingers in the silver paint and realize that I am holding it in exactly a place where there needs to be silver paint. Okay, well, let me see if I can get those. See the ring there? That needs to be this color. Sorry for going silent. I need to get the paint kind of down, not just on the tip of the ring, but into it. Yeah, I got a little too far. It's kind of afraid of that. So there's silver paint where the wood needs to be. So I'm going to have to try to do some touch up with that. Okay, well, it's turning into a B minus here, unfortunately. Just going quiet here when I'm trying to minimize the effort I need to make to correct the situation. Better. Okay, I'm just seeing some significant flaws in the way the wash went on, and they're in places where I don't want them to be. I'm going to come back to this with the wash, and hopefully I'll pick the right brush, and I'll be able to correct those problems before I paint the rest of this. I'm going to have to use a teeny brush to fix some of the issues where I got the silver paint a little bit onto the wooden surface. And then there's some other places where it just didn't get painted much at all. Yeah, so there's that. I'm going to use this brush and this one. At least I got the center brackets okay. Wow. Yeah. Well, pretty much what's happening here is I'm trying to do some corrective action on what look to me to be significant flaws in the appearance of the model here. They have to do with the wash. Not in some places it just got missed. It looks like it just didn't get done. Like along here. Okay, my hand is not holding steady. What is the issue there? Good job of prepping this. Now there's some spots. The edges of these boards here. I can see how that got missed. It's kind of hard to reach. There's one spot, yeah, here, where it didn't even never got painted brown to begin with. And just even when I'm very deliberately targeting it, to be getting it, and certainly looking better. These little bits where when I was painting the ring, and I was really afraid that was going to happen. I'm going to try to cover up the errors with the wash. to be working. Better. So I think, other than sticking my finger on there, which fortunately is mostly dry, I am succeeding in making this look okay. I'm 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 turning my B minus into an A minus at least, but pretty much A. It's looking okay. Being quiet. I'm just working on some detail here that is almost invisible, but under the 2x magnifiers is pretty obvious. And then I'm looking for some spots, where the wash didn't go that maybe it needed to go. Discovering the difference between flaws and dust. Okay, yeah, I'm doing invisible things, trying to fix invisible flaws. Hopefully avoiding the just leave it alone, okay, it's fine syndrome. To be too dark. So there was a spot there that was way too light. Dribbled the wash in and made it too dark. And then in the effort to fix it, I messed up another spot. I really want to check are the spots that I completely missed the first time around. I think I got those. Isn't This isn't bad. It's come out okay. It really is to the point now where I just need to stop messing with it. Just leave it alone. But no, just touch up that spot a little bit. Yeah, leave it alone. Okay, it is leaving it alone time. I've learned my lesson more than once. Okay, so here's a question. Those little rivets, okay, there's little rivets there. I'm really tempted to try to highlight those by painting them a slightly darker color. But that's inviting another oops. So I'm not going to. I am going to not do that. That ring looks good. That ring looks good. A little bit of silver paint on that would not hurt. This is another, am I going to mess it up kind of opportunity, right? Am I going to regret what I'm about to try to do? But I think if I'm really careful, it's just right on the surface here. To believe I was able to do that without hurting anything. Okay. The next part are these cushions. Okay. These cushions are painted this color. And I'm going to take these off for the moment. Well, let's see how this paint flows. I also want to do some test swatches of this paint because I want to see how different colors of wash might look on it. Because it's going to go on and it's going to look pretty flat. And it might look just fine. I mean, it might look okay. I don't know. I'm not sure how it's going to look once the paint dries. But if it needs a washing, I always like to test the washes to see how they look on the color before I put it on the model. And before the stream started, I very carefully cut out, there they are, some pieces of paper. I hope this paint is working well. Oh no. Okay, well, one of the reasons why I wasn't hearing there isn't any paint. The jar is essentially empty. There is this little ball. I want to salvage that. Mixing ball, but there is no paint. So it said deck tan. Okay, that's easy. I've got a jar of deck tan. I need to order the paint. I cannot finish the cart. As you can see, I don't have any deck tan. I don't know what it got used for. I wonder Well, I have other things to do other than paint with this paint that I don't have. I'm just going to check. I'll be right back. Sometimes I have an extra. Yeah. It's one of those things I probably, if I probably should have checked to make sure that I had it before proceeding. I ordered a whole bunch of paint, the colors that I didn't have, but that was a color I did have. But now, obviously, I don't have. I'm really not happy about that. See, it's kind of this grayish color. It's not anything. It's not like anything else I've got. It's a very distinct color, and now I need to order some. I probably should go out of my way to find out what other. In blue. You want to check that one? Yes, I've got that color. Okay. What can I say? That's not going to get done because I thought I had the paint and now I don't. So what should I do instead? What I should do instead, I got these ready to prime, is I still got plenty of time left here to grumble about what I should have done but didn't. I'm going to sand this down and see how it goes. I am going to use a very fine grit sandpaper at first, just 800. I mean, it's not polishing level, but it's close. I don't want to scratch the surface up very much. And if this works, then that's a good thing. But this is the epoxy I use to fill in these little holes, these circles, to test to see whether this, as a filler, is effective. And now I need it. There's quite a lot of it on there. I don't know how fast it sands. But this grit is not going to scratch up the surface very much, and in fact, I may end up just sanding the entire surface. This is one of those things where I can tell it's done. It's into ring. Okay, you can begin to see it here. See where I'm sanding, it changes. This is all going to get painted, so it's surface texture more than anything. That's where the sandpaper hits the plastic, so it changes the color of it. And then you can see the ring where I've been sanding down the center of the epoxy, and that's the edges of it. So when that ring disappears and everything is this sanded down color, then I know that I have I've smoothed the surface. This fine-grained sandpaper, it's taking a while, but it's the epoxy is coming down pretty quickly, so that's good. And then I might end up polishing this whole thing with a even finer grain sandpaper. Although it is supposed to be wood, so there would be having a little bit of texture wouldn't be awful. One thing I have to constantly remind myself of, it should be pretty obvious. When washing or sanding, it's really tempting to go beyond the edges. But I have to keep reminding myself that if you can see it, you're not sanding it. Okay. It's really tempting to go in a circular motion too. But the wood grain is going to go in this direction, so the epoxy is hard. So it is sanding. I can still see it and feel it. Yeah, it's still raised up. The indentation is really, really shallow. Good. It's still raised above the surface, so that's what I want. It is taking longer than I thought. I need to maybe put less in on the other holes. Still showing is a circle. Here. I haven't made anything worse, but I'm not sure. It's not disappearing the way I would like it to just disappear. relaxing, relaxing, sanding down things with Dyson Dungeons. I was going to be doing more painting. These things needed to be painted a certain color called deck tan, and I had this jar there, and it said deck tan, but I didn't check it, and it turns out that there's no paint in it. Well, there is, but it's just like dried up pigment on the bottom of the jar. This might be working. It's just it's just more sanding than I thought there would be. Kind of. Yeah, I think this is going to work. It's just taking more effort than I expected. Yeah, it's coming. It's actually looking okay. The little ring I'm seeing is where the epoxy is still higher than the plastic around it. Maybe, I don't know. It's no worse than it was, that's for sure. Seeing that because it's still higher than the plastic around it. You're not going to really know until it's painted. Really, really nice emery cloth, carbide stuff. That just things. This white spot there. I don't know what that is. This stuff is doing a nice job polishing the surface. Yeah, I'm not sure why that's there. I just don't know. I mean, on one hand, it looks like it's kind of gone. I can still feel it. I can't tell. At this point, I can't tell if it's like raised above the surface or what. Feeling it with my fingernail. So I can feel there's a like a flaw there. I don't know what that is. An irregularity doesn't bother me too much because this is supposed to be wood, so that will happen. Feels like it's still raised above the surface. Like there's still a bump there, but no. But you can see this is better than that. Okay. This is better than that. So the epoxy thing seems to be working. Okay. Well, I'm going to go work on the other one too then. 15 minutes left, so why not sand epoxy? But then, yeah, the next time I do this, I'm going to try to get much less of it in there. Not that the sanding is just tedious, and it's not much fun to watch, and I'm not talking about anything interesting while I'm doing it, so that's kind of unfortunate. Take this up with me, and see if there's anything else I need to buy from the hobby shop when I buy the deck tan paint, since combined shipping, I could have had it shipped with all the other colors I bought. That was an unexpected disappointment. Oh, here, I should at least clean this thing off. Got these little ball bearings, okay, these little ball bearings that get put into the paint to help mix it. And that one is coated with dried pigment in the bottom of this jar. That's what I should do, is I should, if I'm going to order the paint, we'll see if I can get more of those mixing balls. They come in packages of 50 or something. They're like little BBs. I probably could just buy BBs, and it'd be cheaper. Yeah, I definitely want to put less epoxy in, because the more there is, the more the sanding down has to be, and this is a lot of sanding down. Probably use the 600 grit on this and do that, but I don't want to scar this whole thing up. All of this because of these stupid little mold mark circles that appear on the models, and I was dealing with those on the submarine all the time, and even on the Apollo, and I thought, well, this one doesn't seem to have them, and then it does. And it has them in places that are very visible. Am I breaking off the surface of the epoxy? I hope not. Well, I'm glad I tested it here, because it does seem to be, it seems to make it better. Not catching edges. It's not entirely invisible, but it's, okay. Well, it should be, but hand cramp. Okay. No, I didn't drop that. That was kind of a surprise. Usually, yeah, not unusual for me to start dropping things at this stage of the stream. start getting a hand cramp or something. But there's a lot of, yeah, I mean, it looked good bubbled up there, but it's turning out to be a lot of work to get rid of it, get it down to the surface. And I saw on this side, I now see by rotating it, what the issue is. There's still a raised spot there. It's kind of feathered in. Probably isn't a problem, but I don't know, I might polish it a little bit further. Yeah, silicone carbide stuff is really good. It's very fine grained, so it's sort of polishing, but it doesn't clog up like this sandpaper does with the sanding dust. So it stays usable for a good long time. I just break it out. It's like I pop the epoxy out of the hole, it looks like. Yeah, I actually did. This stuff is adhering. On this side, it pulled out. Okay, well, that's a disappointment. So I'll have to reapply that and then be more cautious in my sanding, I guess. This side worked okay. So this, as a technique, this is going to work. The epoxy came out of here. I don't know why that happened. I guess I caught the edge of it and pulled it out. So but I'm going to mix epoxy and put them in these circles and hopefully make them be less apparent. Okay, well, I'm about done for today because some things worked and some things didn't. I was able to get the silvery. What did I accomplish today? Like nothing. I was able to get the silvery bits on here. Okay, and I was able to touch up parts with the wash that had been missed the first time around, and they didn't look good. And I discovered that I didn't have the paint I needed, and I am going to try this epoxy mix to try to make these circles at least minimized, if not completely gone. This one seemed to work okay, and this one, the epoxy came out. And I think the trick is to apply the epoxy in a much, much thinner, way less of it, much thinner. And then that should work okay. So I don't know what to say. This has been a little bit frustrating. Oh yeah, I did took almost an hour to get the seams off the sides of these so I can prime those. and then I can paint them on Friday. I'm going to order the paint. I don't know how long it'll take. It might be until next week. So I'm probably just going to, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the epoxy in these, because then on Friday, at least I can do the sanding, right? If nothing else, and then I can do some part preps. I should have prepped more parts so that I could prime them and paint them next week. Okay, well, I also managed to make a mess here. That's not a surprise, is it? Spent an entire day last week, Friday, cleaning up the workbench, because the whole thing had to be totally disassembled when I put the heat pump in. So it was an opportunity to clean up, and it is already a cluttered mess. Okay, well, the thing with the epoxy is that it's not perfect, but it's no worse. So it's not, I did no harm. Okay, so doing no harm, as in medicine, is also true of model making, is do no harm. And I seem to have done no harm, which is good. Which means that if I put it in the more obvious places, it's not going to be harmful. Yay. So I'm doing this now, going a little bit longer than I was planning today, but I'm doing this now so that I've got some meaningful stuff to do on Friday. Which is to sand down the epoxy in these divots. Why this one pulled out? I think it was just too thick. You know, it was just too thick, and so this is too thick. Seems to be easy to get too much in there. Okay, well, once again, managed to get practically nothing done in a good deal of time. In this case, I sanded down the seams on these radiator parts here. If I remember, I will prime them. It's not much, but I'm going to try to prime them so that I can paint them on Friday. So on Friday, I'm going to be sanding down the epoxy that I'm applying here, hopefully making the circles underneath them, if not invisible, at least inconspicuous. I will be. I've still got Porco Rosso to paint. So if nothing else, I can work on a minifig, and that's always kind of fun to watch. Is painting minifigs. I haven't done that in a while, and I would look forward to doing that. Okay, well, I'm just going to leave that alone. Let it set. Just plan on doing a bunch of sanding. Okay. The biggest disappointment is always a disappointment. And on that disappointing note, the biggest disappointment was not having the paint necessary to paint the cushions on the cart. I could have had that painted. I could have tested the wash. I could have attached the wheels. The cart would have been done. But no, that didn't happen. The epoxy filler on these circles is not too bad. It still kind of shows. You can still see there's a circle there. But hopefully that it'll be less obvious than if I didn't do that. So I need to buy some paint. Need to get some mixing balls. That one is really coated. It kind of dried in at the bottom of the bottle. This thing is totally coated and covered in this paint. Well, thanks for watching. Dyson Dungeons is a Dungeons and Dragons show. You should watch it when it streams with a live chat on Twitch on Sundays at 2, 3 Sundays a month. If you can't do that, then you should catch it on YouTube or as a podcast, because it is a really, really good Dungeons and Dragons show. This is a spin-off because it originated painting dungeon tiles and minifigs for the show, and then morphed into a how to build models that look okay, pretty good, not a professional model level, creation here, but they come out pretty good. Like the cart, this cart is coming out pretty good. And then I do all sorts of things, to try to make a model look pretty good, like these little radiator bits here. Okay. They're 2 parts cemented together, sanding down the seams of the parts after they've been cemented, even though that took forever. And I probably should have just used coarser grade sandpaper, but keep finding that sanding out the scratches from sanding takes longer than sanding it with barely, with the very fine grained sandpaper to begin with. So yeah, this is how to make it look pretty good. And then it's also a lesson in check your inventory, before you order paint, and not just check the ones that you don't have because you don't have them, but also check the contents of the bottles that you do have, because you might find out that is in fact no paint in the bottle. Okay, on Friday, I probably won't have this paint, so I won't be able to finish the cart. Maybe I don't know if I'll put the wheels on or not, probably not. I'm going to sand down these epoxy bits to try to make the circles disappear as much as I can. It's still there. I don't know what, if anything, I can do to make that totally disappear. I mean, the only way I can really make it totally disappear is by sanding down the entire surface to the bottom level of the circle. And that takes off a lot of plastic. So it's still there. I just don't know. I don't feel it. There's a little bit there. Anyway, I'll do the best I can. If this doesn't work, then it doesn't work. And I've got the Porco Rosso minifig, and I do believe I do have the paints necessary for this. Oh, except for Deck Tan. Of course. Yeah. His main body suit the main part of his outfit is painted the color I don't have. At least I'll have a fresh bottle of paint. I can get started on some of it though. I can paint his gloves and the parts that are white, and maybe his head or his goggles. Yeah, something. Well, yeah. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back on Friday and moving forward with the model very slowly, very deliberately, very slowly, trying to make it look as good as I can, including trying to get rid of some of these circles. And it looks like, I don't know, it's probably going to be mainly a failure in accomplishing that, but it's something I'm going to try. Yeah, I have to end early today. Got some chores that need to be done, some places I need to be. So that's what I'm going to do, is do the chores and be in those places. And I'll be back on Friday at 10. And we'll be going all the way until 1 on Friday, because there's just a lot of stuff to do on the model. And even if I don't do it in the order I was planning to, I can get something done. See you then. Thanks, everybody.